Lunchtime, food for thought. If you don't laugh a little, well, it ain't our fault. We got a good recipe and memories, 'cause after all, it's lunchtime, food for thought. We have a big time at lunchtime, food for thought.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Food for Thought. This is Johnny Ivy, and we have the privilege of being a part of this program, Lunchtime Food for Thought, and hope it'll be a blessing to you and encourage you. Hope that you're having a wonderful day, and then maybe there's some days where you just maybe wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Some days you may not even like yourself, and you may be having one of those days. And so maybe something will be said on this program that will make you laugh, get you in a better mood, and so of course with everybody kindly out of kilter in our normal daily lives and things like that. So you may be having a nagging day. You may be some grumpy old man, and so you just need to lighten up today. So maybe this program will help you do that. And we have with us today.
I'm Brother Nick Keller.
And I'm Judy Bernard.
And so this is our lunchtime food for thought gang. And so we'll get started today.
And yeah, we'll go ahead and start off with a round of jokes today. Sister Judy, you got a joke for us today?
Well, what did the horse say when he fell down? I've fallen and I can't giddy up.
I can't giddy up.
You know that it is unusual though a lot of times to see a horse laying down.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how many times we've passed by maybe a pasture and a horse is laying down, and my kids say that horse is dead.
I tell you what, that when I was a young kid, I say young kid, 14, maybe the summer of my 14, 15-year-old time frame, I had I'd get on my bicycle and I'd ride about a mile from the house, and there was a man that had a stable there, and he had about 4 or 5 horses, nothing large. And I spent the entire summer mending fences, shoveling out wood chips and wood shavings from the stable, and learning how to tie knots. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. We'd worked about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then go to the pool for the next few hours and cool off after a hot day.
This is a little off the subject, but I saw on Facebook the other day where someone had put a picture of a baby deer that was laying on her patio like last Saturday morning or whatever, and it was just laying there. And she contacted the authorities, and they said, don't mess with it, don't touch it. That they're not like horses. Where a horse is born, it gets right up on its feet, but that the deer doesn't, and that its mother leaves it laying there. It has to be there for most of the day before it's able to get up, but said she's always close by watching. And so if there's any men out there that love deer, and what should happen if I thought about my son when I read that, because it said don't bother it, that's unusual. Can you imagine walking out and there's a deer laying on your patio, a little farm?
No, Brother Johnny, what would your boys do with that? They'd probably shoot with the pellet gun, right?
Yeah. Oh, now Hunter did get him a squirrel the other day.
Oh boy.
I was on a phone call the other day with Brother Johnny, and it sounded like every 5 or 6 seconds I could hear a pellet gun going off in the background, and I thought, them boys are at it again.
There they are. And
tell him if he gets real good killing those squirrels, I might have to hire him to keep them off my bird feeders.
Yeah. Yep. We used to feed them, but they are a nuisance. And
they are.
But yeah, the boys, they have. My granny lives next door to us, and of course, they're all up in her yard, and they're shooting at squirrels, and I told them, I said, one day Granny was out working in the yard, and I told her, I said, y'all better not shoot her with pellet guns, and don't shoot that direction. So I'm trying to teach them that you got to watch which way you're aiming, because if you miss, you got to see what's behind you, and don't hit something you don't need to be hitting.
Oh yeah. Well, you were feeding the squirrels, then you had an overabundance of squirrels, and now you're killing the squirrels and feeding them to other animals. You're bound to have a pack of wolves right outside the house.
Yeah. So there's no telling what else is around here at night.
Well, Brother Johnny, you got us another joke?
Yeah. Let me give you a joke. What do you call birds that stick together? Birds that stick together.
A flock?
Velcro.
Velcro.
Well, I got one here. It's a little bit longer of a joke, but a man had asked his wife, what did she want for her 40th birthday? And she replied, I'd love to be 6 again. So that morning of her birthday, he got her up early and they went off to the local theme park. What a day. I mean, she rode the death slide, the screaming loop, the wall of fear, everything. And wow, she was, 5 hours later, just kind of staggering out of the amusement park, kind of feeling with her head kind of circling and her stomach kind of upside down. And he immediately takes her to McDonald's. There she gets a Happy Meal along with a refreshing chocolate milkshake. And then later to the movie theater she watched the latest Disney movie. And what a fabulous adventure it was. Hours later, she comes home and she is just beat. And she's just could barely lift up her head. Her husband says, hey, dear, how does it feel to be 6 again? And she raised her head very wearily and said, I meant, you fool, a 6 in my dress size.
That's good.
Oh,
Us men just get things backwards sometimes, don't we?
that's right.
You said it, I didn't.
Well, Miss Judy, speaking from a lady's perspective, you have a riddle for us men to try to figure out?
Let's see. Yeah, I've got one. It belongs to you, but other people use it more than you do. What is it?
I'm gonna say your name.
You're right. You're smart today, Brother Johnny.
Well, I would say your deodorant.
Yeah, it could be a number of things, Miss Judy.
Yeah, could be. That's for certain.
Your toothbrush. I made some corn on the cob last night for the kids, and they said there's a hack, I guess you could say, to get the string off of the corn. And one of the ways, after you peel the corn back and you get the tassel strings off, is you use a toothbrush to scrape it off. And it'll very easily get all the excess strings off and everything like that. But they did put in closed caption, make sure it's a new one.
I was gonna say your kids didn't say, Dad, I'll help you, and they're gonna get their toothbrush.
Right, exactly. Well, I got a riddle for you here. It's is this: husbands, and we just finished up Mother's Day a little bit ago. So husbands, your mother is still living, and so is the wife. How many Mother's Day cards do you buy?
Better buy at least 2.
At least 2?
Yeah.
Brother Johnny is partially right. It's 3, because you have your mother and mother-in-law and your wife there.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. 3 of them right there. So, Brother Johnny, I like that answer. It's always funny. My children, my youngest, Joshua, he's just kind of really learned a lot of reading this year. And he'll always, as he's reading, he doesn't know a question or really what the word is. He'll ask it in form of a question, like he's on Jeopardy. He's like, right? And I'm like, yeah, you got it. It's right. The word's right. Good job, buddy. And he asked it in a form of a question.
Yeah. What is right?
How
That's,
about you,
that's
Brother
good.
Johnny?
Hey,
Do you have another for us?
what can you hold without touching it?
A record?
A conversation.
Okay. The conversation. Now, right now, it has to be 6 feet apart from everybody, but
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
but you
Yeah,
can hold that there. So
yeah,
praise
yeah,
the Lord.
yeah. I've got one more.
Yeah.
Too. What has a foot at each end and a foot in the middle?
A foot on each end.
And a foot in the middle.
A ruler.
You're close. A
New
yardstick.
Yardstick, yeah. Yeah, when you said to get close. Well, since Brother Johnny did, I'll do one more. This is for the hot summer day. I know y'all enjoyed a lot with Memorial Day just the other day. It says, what do frogs like to drink on a hot summer day? A Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Croak, croak, croak.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah,
Well, Brother John, do you have a tongue twister?
I do, and this one's pretty tough here, and so we'll try to get it. Hopefully we can, and so we mess this one up. This is probably the one we do. So the great Greek grape growers grow great Greek grapes. That was
Brother
better
Johnny,
one. I have read that thing several times, and that's the best I've done it right there.
That was
I was
tough.
like, and I was reading it slower, just trying to do it. So
I don't know how you did that, Brother Johnny.
I
Have
think
you
you
ever
should
gotten
do
to
it
those-
I think you should do it one more time because I didn't.
One more
I
time.
didn't- yeah,
The
yeah.
great Greek grape growers grow great Greek grapes.
Good job.
Uh,
Great job.
I figured I'd have
I'll get
messed
that
that
last
one up.
grade in there for you.
I already had fear on that one. I was going to mess that one up and say,
Brother Johnny, you ever get to where you're preaching and maybe you're reading a passage of scripture and you've been trying to read through that name of that individual or that Bible character, and you've read it and you read it and you get to the point you're about to read it in front of a bunch of people.
oh yeah,
And all of a sudden you start to get real hot very quick. I mean, just that quick, you get really hot and you slaughter the name. You absolutely do a horrible job. I tell you, I preached out of Genesis this past week of the story where Abraham goes and frees Lot when he's taken captive by the League of Kings, right? And I sat there and I practiced the king's name over and over and over again. I got up there to present it and I slaughtered the name and I just gave up on it and I just started calling him King C. Amen. And it's funny because I can say the king's name, but when I add king to it, or I just slaughter it, it messes up the pattern of it. But you know, Keto or I can say that easily, but when you add king in front of it, nah, it's gone.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's
so.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny. But it's crazy how things like that happen. Speaking of crazy, no doubt with Memorial Day just yesterday, some of y'all have grilled out maybe for the first time in recent days, and no doubt many of y'all probably had some hot dogs and hamburgers and things like that. So I want to share with you a world record for hot dogs. Now I want to pose this first in a question, because this guy with the Nathan's hot dog eating contest that they do on the 4th of July every year, this guy is world renowned. Do either of y'all know his name?
Joey Chestnut.
That's it, Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
Well, Joey Chestnut just recently won the record again this past year. They call him Joey Jaws Chestnut because he's just all jaws, amen. And he had 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Now, my son thinks he can beat that because he can eat him 5 or 6 hot dogs like nothing. I tell him all the time. I said, son, all them hot dogs can't be good for you right there.
Yeah.
But it's 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes, and it's on the 4th of July. It was 91 degrees hot when he ate all those hot dogs.
Wow.
I mean, hot dog, filling. That doesn't sound like it translates into a good equation right there.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, isn't he, Brother Johnny? He's pretty thin, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, he's really, yeah.
Not
I
a
think
big
he
guy,
has
and
to
he
run
does
around in
this-
the shower to get wet.
Yep.
He does it every year. He breaks his own record just about every year.
Every year. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna answer that, Brother Nick, in King Josh's form.
Yeah.
What is a stomach ache?
What is a stomach ache? That's right. Well, I know y'all are sitting there probably enjoying lunch and stuff like that, but our younger 2 boys, Joshua, he's 7, he sleeps on the top bunk, and my other son, Jude, he sleeps on the bunk below that. Well, about a week ago, Josh wasn't feeling very good, and we didn't realize that when he laid down to bed.
Uh-oh.
Well, we heard something in the middle of the night.
Oh, no.
Brother Johnny, he had no energy. He was half asleep, and all he did is he just leaned over the edge of his bed. And when we finally went into the room, what ensued there was, brother, it was havoc. It was havoc.
Oh, no.
And I mean, part of it landed on the bed below, right on top of Jude. Part of it landed on the ladders, part to climb to the top. Part of it was all, I mean, you could imagine the nightmare. Miss Kimberly and I walked in there and be like, what do we do? You know, we had just no idea what to do. And I said, you know what? We're going to have to take a picture of this because this is a world record or something like that.
Oh, man, I can't handle that. Ugh.
So
You didn't
but
call Brother Daniel, did you? For
no, I
clean up?
didn't call Brother Daniel or Brother Josh Hagan. But
Did
what about you, brother?
Jude wake up?
What now?
Did he wake up?
No, he never woke up until I woke him up. And I woke him up and I said, Jude, it's time to get up, son. And it said, I'm trying to get him out of everything. And he's like, oh. And then all of a sudden he smells it, he sees it. And he's like, oh.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So poor kid. Poor
Oh.
kid.
They would have
It
been
was a
twice
rough
as
night
bad.
that night at the Keller house. So
all right. So we got a crazy law, and this is in the state of Kansas, and of course, I guess really it is a poorly worded law. But here's what the law is: if 2 trains meet on the same track, neither shall proceed until the other has passed.
Some smart politician came up with
I
that.
tell you what.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
No
that's such
telling,
a
no telling how much they spent on that study.
yeah, right. They probably had to help some endangered species of animal along with it.
Or how many it took to figure it out, how to word that.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Sister Judy, you got some old song titles to share with us, don't you?
Oh, I got some hymns for old people.
Okay.
Their version of some hymns. The first one is "Give Me That Old Timer's Religion," and then "It Is Well With My Soul, But My Knees Hurt," and "Go Tell It on the Mountain, but speak up, please." And "Precious Lord, take my hand and help me up." Y'all, one of these days, y'all be able to identify with that. But I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that can identify with those song titles and add-ons.
Oh yeah, I'm sure about that.
Yeah.
It was so funny the other day. We were took the boys Saturday morning and we went out to just a little pond. It was a pretty big pond, and somebody had a little boat, a trolling motor. So I put the boys on the back and we were just riding out through the water, and we're sitting there, and one of my kids, he says something. It's a secret about what we're doing later on in the day, and he says it just openly, but he did not realize how much your voice carries over the water. So he was just whispering to me, but they could hear it all the way on the shoreline of what was going on there. And I'm sitting here, and it was great for me to try to teach a biblical principle of why Jesus taught many times off the shore, and he would preach off the shore and use the elements to be able to help him preach. And I'd say, "Watch this, Jude," and I'd say, "Jacob, wave if you can hear me." And I just whisper it there, and Jacob go like this, and Jude goes, "He heard me! He heard me!" Like, yep.
That's funny.
Well, Brother Johnny, you got some expressions, and where do they come from?
Yeah, some everyday expressions that folks use, and a lot of times they don't realize where those expressions come from. And so it's really amazing. A lot of things that we say in little phrases, really they originated right from our Bible. And so, for instance, I'll give you one today. The blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm.
We've all made that comment. We've heard that comment. That's the blind leading the blind. Well, it comes from Matthew 15 and 14. And where the Bible said, "Let them alone, they be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch."
Yeah.
And of course, the spiritual application to that is Jesus was telling the disciples that the Pharisees, the hypocrites, they were blind, spiritually blind. But I did think one time we was at Stone Mountain. Have y'all ever walked up Stone Mountain?
Yes, man.
Yes.
And
Been a long time,
so
but yes.
yeah. I mean, I know a lot of folks have been on top of Stone Mountain, but they'll take the trolley up, the tram up. And so, but we haven't done it in the last couple of years, but we used to at least once a year, we would take our kids and we'd walk Stone Mountain. One time we was walking, and there's some pretty tough places, but there was a group probably of 15 people. And what they did was they all got in a single file line, put their hands on the shoulder of the person in front of them, and only the leader could open his eyes. The rest of them had their eyes closed, and they would say, "Step to the right, take one step up," different things. They gave instructions. They just passed it back forth. I thought, man, that is amazing. I'm doing good to walk up the mountain with my eyes open.
Yeah, right.
But I thought about that, the blind leading the blind. But they made it all the way to the top of the mountain doing that.
Wow.
That's pretty good. But that phrase, the blind leading the blind, that's where it originated from, is Matthew 15:14.
Wow. Well, that may also be too where the phrase "fixin'." I know down south we use that word, like I'm fixing to go somewhere, or I'm fixing to do this, and that might have originated from maybe a Ford or something like that. Where they're always having to fix a Ford, right?
Hey, I'll agree with you on that.
Well, I got a quick recipe for you before we get into our topic for the day, and this is we're getting close to that summertime, and where everyone's maybe gathering together, having some barbecues, and I can't think of anything greater than having a nice key lime pie. Do y'all like key lime pie?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good and refreshing.
Yes, it certainly is. So what you do is you take 2 blocks of cream cheese softened. You mix it together with a can or 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, and you do about 2 large limes. You get the juice of it, it's about 1/3 of a cup, and you apply that in there as well. And then you take about 2/3 of a portion of some lime zest, and you mix it all up together in a big bowl, and you continue beating it till it's very smooth and very creamy, really about 4 minutes long. You just transfer it to a graham cracker crust, and you sprinkle a little lemon zest on top and let it sit for about 4 hours. And it is a wonderful key lime pie. You can put a little bit of garnish of a little whipped cream right on top there if you like it. But I'm looking forward to some of the yummy times around the grill this summer, and I'm definitely going to make that key lime pie.
Sounds good.
And I know a lot of y'all listen, whether it be through the radio or even now through some of our social media channels, maybe by Facebook or YouTube. And this would give you an avenue if you miss a joke or you want to hear a recipe again. You can go straight to those channels and you can hear it and click back 15 seconds to hear it again, so you can write all those details down. And it'll just be a great way for you to be more connected with us on a week-to-week basis there. But we've had several people that have mailed me their Bible class newsletter, and they'll have recipes that we've given on there. We'll have people call the radio station and say, oh, I listened to that recipe that Sister Judy shared, last week, and everything like that. And if you have a recipe that you want to share, or maybe a riddle or joke that you would like us to share on air, I'd like nothing more for you to give us a call at the radio station. You can leave it right there on the voicemail, and we'll follow back up with you. The number to the station is 770-920-1520, or you can go to our website, wordchristianbroadcasting.com, and you can find some other ways to connect with us, whether it's email or social media as well. Well, today we're going to be talking about, with the remainder of the time, some of our favorite subjects, or maybe our favorite subject, or maybe you didn't have a favorite subject in school. And we're going to be talking about that there too. So Miss Judy, what about you? What was your favorite subject?
I'd have to say mine would have been history. I like history.
Okay. What was probably the most famous historical fact that really just made a difference for you?
Ooh, now you didn't prepare me for that. This is smarter than a fifth grader again.
Well, I think about like when I hear about monumental historical things. For example, I did not like history, Sister Judy, but I had a teacher that allowed us to go, and we did World War II in the class, like a big game of Risk. Part of the class was the country of Italy. Part of the class was Germany. Part of the class was Japan. And what we did is, after every class, we could turn in our next move, military move.
Wow.
And I had a blast. I loved it. I could not wait. We formed alliances with other countries during the class. We would turn in our moves together, and ultimately want to see who is it. And then after the war ended, what type of reformations and stuff like that we'd have to do.
That's a great teaching tool. What grade do you think you were in when that?
11th grade.
11th grade. So that was at Douglas County. Did you go to Douglas
County High School? Yep. It was.
I liked the Civil War era.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed learning about all that. My, some of our ancestors were in the war, and not necessarily too much of a participant. We always heard that our great-grandfather, my dad was like 53 when I was born, so there's a big generation gap there. But anyway, that he was captured up somewhere around, he was from New Georgia, and I think it was up around New Hope or whatever, and he sat down because he'd rubbed blisters on his feet or whatever, and they marched off and left him.
Oh, wow.
That was a story that we always heard, but I mean, everybody was there was such a gap there in the age. But anyway, it was, Civil War was interesting.
Civil War history. How about you, Brother Johnny? What was your favorite subject?
Well, outside of PE and lunch, no, I'm just kidding.
Recess?
No. Math was probably by far my favorite subject. I enjoyed numbers, and so I remember when I was in the 4th grade, we played a game called Around the World. And so what we'd do was flashcards. And so like you take this row of desk, the first student would stand up and the second person behind them, and whoever said the answer, the flashcard first, they would move on to the next desk. And so whoever went all the way around the classroom first was the winner. And you got a Snicker bar for winning. And so I would win that thing. I mean, just every time. I could rattle off them flashcards. I mean, just. And so the teacher, when we would do the round the world, he would send me to the library. But he'd still give me a Snicker bar. So, but I've always enjoyed numbers, and math is, always been my favorite subject. So
yeah, and for me, that's kind of the same way. Anything analytical, math, numbers, really science. I remember as a kid trying to gather as much, AP advanced placement science classes that I could, taking AP chemistry and AP physics in high school, and just absolutely loved those classes. It stirred my heart many times there. So, but thankful for the memories, and thankful to apply those memories that we have even today.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I know time is leaving us here, and we'd like nothing more to let us to know how this particular show or the radio station in general is being a blessing to you. Please give us a call, leave us a voicemail, just a testimony of a minute or less of what this radio station means to you. It'd be a great encouragement today. So for all of us here, we thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next week. I'm Brother Nick Keller.
Johnny Ivy.
And Judy Bernard.
Take care, guys.